Bernie Sanders spoke at the Dakota Access Pipeline protest just yesterday at around the same time that police arrests of protesters were starting to go up, and there's some controversy regarding that. But first, we want to cover some of what Bernie Sanders said. Here are some of his remarks.
There are several basic issues that we're discussing today. And number one is the end of the exploitation of Native American people and the respect of Native American rights, period, end of discussion. We understand that the future of energy in this country is not more oil, it is not more pipelines, it is not more carbon emissions, it is the transformation of our energy system away from oil, away from pipelines, and away from carbon.
So thankfully, that sort of position is getting, I think, a little bit more popular, especially as we see more and more countries getting closer to their goals of having a much higher percentage of their energy being produced through renewable or clean sources. I think it was Costa Rica went a certain number of days, I'm probably getting the facts wrong, entirely on renewable energy. And so what's distressing is when you have these corporations basically seeing the changing winds on wind power and trying to just suck out every drop that they can before we move away from oil and coal and things like that. So it's good to see Bernie Sanders there. Obviously, Jill Stein was there a couple of weeks ago.
I'm sure Hillary's going to be there as soon as she gets over her pneumonia that only Parkinson's patients get.
Exactly, that one. So Hillary hasn't made any comment yet. Donald
That's
Trump
weird
hasn't made
that
any
she wouldn't come
comment
out. That is so weird that Hillary Clinton wouldn't be all over this issue because we know she really cares about the little guy and she's against all this kind of exploitation and ruining our.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess all her donors
this
are
is a
for
demonstration of why we preferred Bernie Sanders.
It's weird because all her donors want this to happen, and yet she's not there. But I bet it's that.
But by the same token, Obama also temporarily halted construction of it.
And
we would have expected
and my
that he would
prediction,
be,
the day after the election, it goes through. Especially the
if
TPP
it
and the
takes that
TPP.
long, I would be surprised. But it is at least paused. And thankfully, Sanders is going to bring a little bit more light to it. Because of his high-profile position in the primaries, they're going to have to cover this. I think the mainstream media over the past couple of weeks has gotten better about this particular issue. I've seen some stories about the Dakota Access Pipeline.
They're almost covering it.
They're almost covering it. Their hand was sort of forced when you have like attack dogs with blood dripping from their hands or
from the faces of little kids. You mean?
That too, yeah. That makes it a little bit harder to ignore. And now Sanders going there after Jill Stein went there. Where's Gary Johnson? What the hell?
He's
Anyway.
in Aleppo.
Aleppo?
Yeah,
he's not sure where he is, but
he's not sure.
I think Jill Stein's entire 1% was standing behind.
I think so.
Behind Bernie Sanders.
I think you're right.
So look, he's there. He's drawing attention to it. As we said, there has been a temporary halt. The federal government has issued a halt to construction on Army Corps land, specifically around Lake Oahe, one of 6 reservoirs on the Missouri River. 3 federal agencies also asked Energy Transfer Partners for a voluntary pause in work for 20 miles around there. Energy Transfer Partners sounds like such a nice organization.
Doesn't it sound nice? It's
I like how you
working
went
together.
to there instead of Lake Oahe in the second one because you didn't like saying it the first time. So then 20 miles there.
I don't like repeating the same thing in one graphic,
okay,
actually.
all right, that's fine.
Now, what's interesting is that while Bernie, around the same time yesterday when he's giving this speech, you also have people moving in to do somewhat mass arrests of protesters. I heard at least 20 people at one point. And so
and I'm sure those cops, when they became cops, they were like, "Oh, I hope someday I can help ram an oil pipeline down the throat of indigenous people and lock up the people who are fighting against it. That would be the greatest exercise of my constitutional rights as a policeman."
Look, I think it's easy to attack the cops.
I'm not attacking
But
them.
there are protesters there.
I'm not
and
attacking
like
them.
with Clive and Bundy, you can't stand for it. You just sweep them all up instantly. You're not going to stand for that shit.
No,
Come on.
They're exactly the same. There's absolutely no moral distinction between the Clive and Bundy or these people or the people in
Selma. The lack
Selma.
of guns is the only
Oh, maybe
thing.
the lack of guns,
The
the
lack of
peaceful
guns,
protesting.
The lack of implicit threats to murder federal agents. Some differences, but roughly the same. But the videotaping of those arrests that were going on, so Unicorn Riot, which is an independent source of media online, they were doing some filming, and they were live streaming, actually. And then this happened. If we could bring up this picture. Yeah, it was actually stopped on Facebook. Shut down. Now,
that's so weird.
They explained Their process of trying to get it unblocked, saying it had been violating community standards, they were told. Now, look, we don't know if this, we never know, unfortunately, if this means that someone at Facebook pulled the plug or if this is the result of a whole bunch of jackbags reporting it. And so then automatically it gets pulled. We honestly don't know, but it was shut down.
But what it does allow us to do is speculate because
It
they
does.
did that without telling us why they did it.
Yes.
Now, they also cut out all of Jill Stein's mentions of, they wouldn't let that video go up where that guy pointed out Jill Stein's mentions to the TPP on PBS was cut out of her her interview on PBS. So then the guy put it up on Facebook. They take it down. It got 100,000 views. They took it down.
They took down an interview that she had with
They
PBS?
took down a video of a guy that made about her. Jill Stein did an interview on PBS.
Okay.
Every time she talked about the TPP, PBS cut it out of their interview. So this guy went back, got the live feed, took the parts that they cut out.
So it was a straight interview or was it a package that
No,
they
it's a
put
straight
together?
interview.
So it was an interview.
So it live streamed,
Right.
And then when they went to put it back up, they cut out the parts about, just like with the CBS. And so anyway,
Yeah.
they cut out the parts where she mentioned the TPP. It was a lot of parts. And so this guy went back, got the live stream, and matched it up to the edited part, and they had cut out everything against the TPP. Now, we know that PBS is not public. It's all owned by corporations. And then they also worry about the Republicans in Congress. So they're almost worthless, PBS, right? And they proved it over and over. And this was one of those times they proved it. And so then they put it up on Facebook. Facebook takes that video down. I reported about it on the Jimmy Dore Show.
Did it
so
end
you
up
didn't know
on like
about it?
YouTube or anything?
What's that?
They should put it up on YouTube.
It was
or some
up on.
other
He
source.
put his YouTube video up on Facebook. They take it down.
Okay, so it is still available, but Facebook has done everything.
Then they let him. So then after a while, they let it go back up. But of course, you know how things work. It kills the momentum.
Yeah,
all
yeah.
the stuff.
When it was being spread, and
Right, less
a bunch
people
of
are
people
going
get
to
a
see
broken
it.
link. Yeah.
So unless Facebook comes out and tells us why, I'm going to think the worst.
Yeah, yeah, and look, I mean, their argument would be that there's tons and tons of videos and stuff is getting taken down constantly, but this is an issue that obviously people have been paying a ton of attention
Yeah.
to for months. People want to see what's happening there.
Yeah.
We don't like when the cameras get shut down. If it's at the Dakota Access Pipeline protests, if it's at some gigantic pork processing plant where all of a sudden you can't do any filming, we want more information, and we're not going to stand for it being taken away.